This is Scott with Scott King Designs, and in this video I'll show you how to screen print with vinyl with the two-color setup. The first thing that we need to do is take a look at the art that we are going to be screening. As you can see here, we have two different files or two different images, and that's going to be the two different colors that we're going to be screening. And today we're going to be doing a black with a red outline. A few things to take a look at. As you can see, I have these registration lines at the top and the bottom. These will work for helping align your screen to your palette to making sure that it's on the center of your t-shirt. We also have these registration marks in the four corners, and as you'll see, these are what we're going to use to make sure we get our two screens to line up perfect. I just use a circle with a simple crosshair, vertical horizontal line. You could use squares or triangles, whatever you want to use. Just something as a guide to ensure your stuff is square. As you can see here, we're going to line everything, and if everything is set up correctly, you're going to notice that we're going to have a nice even outline around both images. Nothing's off. We don't have any black being far to one side. Up in these corners, if it were off, you'd see the other registration mark. We don't see anything there, so I think this art is ready to be cut out and we can start screening. And just like my previous video, you want to mirror your art prior to running it through your vinyl plotter. Once it's done being cut out, you want to go ahead and remove all the areas of your design. You also want to make sure that you remove the center line and all your registration marks. As you can see here, we're working on weeding out all the areas that we want the ink to transfer through onto the garment. Now when you're weeding out your registration marks, on this one you can see we only remove the outer ring and the insides of that crosshair. Now on this other one, what I'll do is I'll remove the complete opposite. We'll take the center part of the circle out, and then we'll leave just the little thin crosshairs. This will help make it a little bit easier for when we're lining everything up on the screen and getting it to line up. With all the art weeded out, all your registration lines removed, now it's time to transfer tape your material. And once again, just like the previous video, use your squeegee to help firmly apply the transfer tape. Use your scissors to trim up all the extra edges, and you are ready to start setting up your graphics on your screen. Now with the graphics done, we can focus on setting them up. Remove the transfer tape and apply the graphic to the back side of the screen. Use those lines on the center and that horizontal line to help line it up both vertically and horizontally. I would stress that you try to make sure that it is as level as possible. Normally anywhere from 5.5 to 6.5 inches down from the top is usually where I put it. Like I said, I can't stress enough that this is very important. If it's a little off here, you're gonna be a little off on your screen. So take your time, make sure you do it right, and you'll also repeat this step for the other screen as well, making sure you got them the same distance down. Once you have your graphic lined up, go ahead and remove that transfer tape, and we are ready to move on. As you can see here, we have a center line already drawn on our palette. When we pull the screen down, this is where that center line comes into play. You want to adjust your screen so that that line lines up with the line on the palette, ensuring that your graphic should be square and straight to your palette, which will lead to a nice square design applied to your t-shirt. With the graphic squared to your palette, you want to focus on the front of the screen now. Use some spare vinyl to help cover up some of the areas of the screen that you don't want any ink to go through. As you can see, I'm not trying to cover up any of our registration marks or those center lines. I'm just pretty much going around the outside of the screen, covering everything up that we don't want any ink to go through the screen and onto the palette. Once you have worked your way around the front of the screen, let's focus on the back of the screen. Use some spare vinyl to cover up those center registration lines that you use to line it up on the center as well as level it on the screen. You could put this on the front of the screen, but as you would screen it, you're most likely going to catch the vinyl edges and it's just going to create a problem. So I just put this on the back side. You don't want to cover up your registration marks, just those center lines. Now we're back working on the front edge of the screen again. As you can see, we have top and bottom center lines covered up. Now what I want to do is use a spare piece of vinyl to cover up the actual art that we're eventually going to be screening. I do this just for when I do the registration marks. I don't like any ink in the screen until I'm ready to go. So you necessarily don't need to do this. I do it. So now the only thing that we have open is our registration marks. Here is a little tip that I use. Use a little transfer tape and apply that right to your palette. As you'll see in the next step, when you go and put your screen and you pull your registration marks across, the ink will transfer down onto your transfer tape and not your palette. And once your registration marks are complete, you can simply remove the transfer tape and then you have a nice clean palette with no ink on it. The next step is put a little bit of ink in front of each of your registration circles. I like to apply the same amount of pressure when I'm pulling and lining up these registration marks as if I was screening any other shirt. Same angle, same pressure, same everything. Just double check, make sure you got all your areas of your screen covered up. Our registration lines, the center part of our graphic. As you can see here, this is the second color of our screen that you've already set up, but you haven't done anything with other than put the graphic on the back of the screen. As you can see, we have our other registration marks that now we're trying to set up. This is the one that we weeded out the inside of that circle, leaving just that thin little crosshair. So you may have to adjust the screen a little bit to make sure everything aligns up. Once again, this is where it's also important to make sure you put your graphic on the same distance on either side, that 5.5 to 6.5 inches. And here's a little closer look. As you can see, that thin white line, obviously we want to line it up with the black registration line behind it. Try to get all four corners to line up the best you can and be good to go. Now that we have our registration lines, we don't need them anymore. So just use a couple pieces of scrap vinyl to help cover up those registration holes so they don't transfer through. We also can go to the front side and remove that big block that was covering up our original art. Now your screen is ready to go. Now, with our registration lines not needed anymore, simply remove the transfer tape we put on our pallet from earlier, and there you go, a nice clean pallet ready for a t-shirt. Now, I didn't show you the steps, but you need to go on that second color and repeat the process. Cover all the open areas with vinyl and get it ready just like we did in the previous video. Once your shirt is lined up, we'll apply the first color. We're going to flash it for the 10 seconds. We're going to use the fan to help cool it down a little bit. And then we're going to come back and we're going to apply the black, our second color. We'll flip it over and we're going to flash it for 30 seconds. And once this is done, you have a nice two-color design that you screened with vinyl. If you would like more information about Scott King Designs, please check us out on Facebook at facebook.com/Scott King Designs, or find us on Twitter at SKD937, or check us out online at scottkingdesigns.com. Thanks for watching.